since we're in traffic on the way back from C2E2, and it's all three of us in the car at one time, I thought we would take a moment to quickly go over some highlights and not an in-depth look back at our C2E2 experience on this Friday, but just a little bit from everybody about what they enjoyed and what they did. So let's put Molly Jane on the spot first. Molly Jane, how was your C2E2?
It was okay. It was okay. We walked all of Artist Alley, and we all noticed that it was more people selling prints and stickers and pins than people selling their comics.
What's the second C in C2E2? Prints, right? Yeah.
Not stickers. Stickers
Yeah.
doesn't start with a C.
Nope.
So it was kind of I really enjoy getting to discover new people's comics going to C2E2, and it was kind of a bummer not to see so many.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of our whole joys or points of why we go is to discover artists we don't know, and I don't think we did that this year.
Yeah, I don't think there was anybody that we hadn't seen before, which is sad. But I mean, it's also really cool to be able to see everybody that we know who was there and be able to kind of touch base and see how they've been in the past 9 months since the last C2E2.
Yeah, I don't think we care about that as much as you may. Dal, what do you think?
But yeah, this was a C2E2 where it really felt like we didn't need to be there as a group. Unfortunately, there wasn't that sense of like, we're all making a discovery together that's going to help the store. It was more like, it was nice to be there as a group to say hi to people we haven't seen in a little while, but that wasn't super valuable as a business thing.
Yeah, we're not talking at all about personal level.
No, and
this is for the store.
Because of that, like, shows are a lot more limited in where they can land their dates, which means you're going to have more shows that are kind of running up against each other or not spacing out as much as they probably like. But that's the nature of the industry, and it has been for like the last 6 years.
Medical supply companies buy suites and spend money and pay for carpet.
Yeah, they do a much more upscale show than like a comic convention would.
There was no carpet this year at C2E2 because they're trying to be more economically friendly, but also
environmentally friendly, I think.
I was going to say, but also environmentally friendly.
Okay.
I mean, they say environmentally friendly, but I'm sure it's also a cost thing as well.
Oh, I'd be surprised if it was not. Yeah. So yeah, it's. I think it's still creating a pretty good value experience for the fans attending. It's just the things that we want C2E2 to do and the ways that we want that show to communicate to the public are maybe not what that show is going to be in the future.
As a way to illustrate how comic fans don't necessarily buy comics at a show, I was talking to a local creator on the way out who's got a book coming out in the next couple weeks. And I had meant to reach out to them and say, hey, you want to do something? So I'm like, hey, do you want to do something, when the book comes out? And they said, well, I'm only on issue 1. I had to leave the book, so I'm not on 2 or anything. I'm like, well, we would just want you for issue 1. And they said, yeah, but I don't want to give a false impression. Like, what if people buy the book because of it and then, they come back and I don't do issue 2? And I said, oh, no, people at signings don't buy issue 2s. They'll buy the 1 because you're there, but it's the return rate on number 2s for books that we have signings of is very, very low. And it's not non-existent. It's just low.
But it's also, that's not even for signing. That's just the industry, right?
Sure, but when we get a number 1, we're having a signing, we'll buy up to 5 times as many as we would normally.
Yeah.
And still buy a regular number of number 2s, and people just don't get the 2s.
Right.
Because they're not signed, or they forget, or maybe they didn't like it. I don't know. There's always plenty of reasons. It's just that 2s don't do as well.
Right.
And I think that just kind of illustrates maybe the mentality of the Artist Alley customer.
Yeah, I suppose.
Dal, did you have a highlight?
Did I have a highlight? I had kind of a highlight and a low light all at once.
Immediately, first thing.
So I had, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I'm a fan of the tokusatsu franchise from Japan called Kamen Rider.
What is tokusatsu?
It is.
What is Kamen Rider?
Boy. I don't know. When I find out, Patrick, I will be sure to let you know. I've only watched about 1,000 episodes of Kamen Rider, so I think I'm getting close to figuring out like what the deal is. But anyway.
So wait, 1,000 episodes, is that 3.5 seasons?
That is over 20 seasons. So anyway, I had mentioned to some online friends that I was attending C2E2, and they knew I was a Kamen Rider fan. And so I had, while we were corralled in the people corrals,
waiting to get in the morning.
To get in between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., I got a message from one of them saying, hey, Team Rider, which is the specific Kamen Rider publicity portion of Bandai's U.S. operation, tweeted out that they are selling a bunch of Kamen Rider merch, nothing exclusive and nothing that was brand new, but stuff that they don't necessarily bring to shows. I've been to their booth plenty of times at C2E2s, and they don't really bring any Kamen Rider stuff. So they had a whole bunch of stuff, and a few things I saw I wanted, but one thing specifically I'm like, oh, I definitely want that, because it was decently priced and something I could take with me home from the show. So we're walking in the show, and Patrick's like, do you want to go to the Bandai booth now? I'm like, no, just go by later. It's not a big deal. He's like, no, get it done now. Knock it out of the way. I'm like, all right, fine.
That way you could be happy the rest of the show.
Actually,
still the wrong thing.
They brought out a counter-sized version of the banner they had up with all the price points and items, so I could specifically point to the thing like it was a menu and go, no, this one. Anyway, wrapping it up, 10 minutes I'm waiting while they dig around in the back for the Neo Deca driver, only to have someone come up and go, oh, yeah, no, we didn't bring those. So it was like, I wasn't even looking for this, and then someone told me you had it because it's on a banner that you tweeted out, and now you don't have it. So I went from not excited to very excited to bummed out.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because you bought the other stuff first, because they had that,
yes.
If you had known they didn't have the Neon Deca driver
Neo
Deca driver,
yes.
Would you still have gotten the other thing?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, so
the stuff I bought wasn't just like to hit some weird total. It was just.
But I mean, it's like, well, I'm here. I may as well get something.
No, it was more a sense of like I really wanted the Neo Deca driver because that's the thing I had already looked at, and it's not that I can't get it anywhere else. Like I think Big Bad Toy Store has it for probably the same price or less. This was just a thing of like I could go home with it tonight, and that would be kind of fun.
But wear it home, would you? Put it on for the rest of the show?
I was hoping that was going to happen.
So here's the problem with the DX stuff. The DX stuff is sized for children. The complete selection modification is sized for adults. If I got that one, I could have worn it home.
The ones that they had on display looked adult size.
No, the waist on those is very small.
Now, I don't understand what Degeneration X has to do with any of this.
I can't remember any lyrics that I could use right now from DX.
I was going to kick him, but now I can't remember.
Right?
Something, fool.
Yeah.
Just got tired of doing what you want me to do. That's the price, man. So, I don't know, something like that.
Something like that. That's pretty good.
Break it down.
So, yeah, the stuff I got was stuff that I was excited to get, but not as excited as the other thing that I thought I was going to get. So that was kind of a highlight and a low light for me. I also ended up in Artist Alley, and Andrew Griffith, who is a Transformers artist for the IDW Transformers comics, was there. I got to talk to him for a little bit and bought a very large poster that I'm probably going to have a very difficult time framing.
Yeah, it's really AO size.
Yeah, it's a very... I was hoping it was a standard, you can just get a 24 by 36 frame for it, and it seemed like that is not going to happen. So I got to get home and measure it. It's probably going to be in millimeters, and it's not going to work right. But it's a very cool poster, and it was at a very good price. And I have already told Andrew Griffith original art that I want of his, and he's going to look and get back to me. Those are my highlights, I believe. Molly Jane, highlights?
Honestly, a lot of just like the random merch out on the exhibitor floor.
Yeah.
Got some jewelry. Got a couple pairs of Doctor Strange socks. Excited about that. And I got some gifts for people that I might save until the holiday.
Talk about all of them now on the podcast.
No.
And say who they're for.
No.
Yeah.
I will not.
And how much you paid for them?
No. See what else they end up coming up with.
That sounds like a curse.
Yeah.
Look, someone else you have to follow on Instagram. No, why did I do this?
And of course, like when you're looking them up on Instagram, like Instagram isn't loading because the Wi-Fi is so overtaxed at the convention. So
I
it takes
never
forever.
use the Wi-Fi at McCormick. Never. Like I got on it yesterday for a conference, and it was fine, but then I was still on it when I got there today, and it's like, why is my phone so slow? Oh, I'm on McCormick's terrible internet. Like, let me get back on cell. Oh, super fast.
Of course. What was that conference that you were at?
Oh, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not the purpose of this conversation.
Yes.
Cool.
Patrick, yourself, highlights, lowlights?
Just hanging out with the two of you all day.
Was a lowlight?
Thanks for listening. Cue the theme song.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting, comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep bringing comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
So here's a story from Patrick's comic book retailing past that I don't know if I've told on the podcast before or if I did it was a while ago, but it is something that comes into play on a day where we are at a convention and walking all day. Back in 2005, I was working downtown, and I worked regularly with my friend Matt, and there was a bar right next door to where we worked. So not every day, but definitely Wednesdays, we would go to Paisanos and drink after work,
Okay.
especially after a long Wednesday.
Sure.
And then, like we hatched plans there.
Mhm.
Like the idea of doing the annual Christmas party that ran for a decade came from one of those outings.
Okay.
But we would also, they'd have sporting events on the TV, and we'd watch. And then one fall, we got invested in the World Series because the White Sox were playing. And as you know, Dow, in 2005, you personally are well aware, the White Sox won the World Series.
I'm aware of that.
So Matt and I had been drinking, and we ran out in the streets to celebrate. And the streets were kind of deserted, and we were on Michigan
No,
Avenue.
Matt was with you.
Oh. Aside from Matt and I, the streets were deserted. Like, nobody was driving around, and it was raining.
The joke is that Matt's streets were deserted.
See, it doesn't work because I never said his last name.
I know, but that was just for your benefit.
Oh, I didn't get it?
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I was keeping that out of this. Yet I had to call out to it because I didn't get it. Sorry. So, at that time, the Art Institute had White Sox batting helmets on the Lions out front.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, let's go take pictures of the Lions. And we had early versions of camera phones. I had a flip phone with a camera on it.
Sure.
I mean, it was like a long download process, but like, let's go take photos in front of the Lions, right?
Right.
And it was drizzling, so it was a little wet.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can easily get up to the base of the Lion from, like, you walk up the stairs and get on the base and walk out, right?
Sure.
So Matt stands at the back of the Lion, and he's waving, and I take his picture, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm like, I want mine to be more dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be at the front, and I want to be on the Lion,
Okay.
right?
Right.
The kind of well thought out plan you make when you've been drinking.
Of course.
So I get up on the line, and it's pretty easy to do, and Matt takes a picture. Unfortunately, both of these photos are lost to the annals of time because of technology. But then, what do you think the problem was, Dal?
How do you get down?
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 Luckily, the two of you had been drinking so much that I'm sure the solution quickly occurred to you.
Jump.
You jump off. You jump off
Yep.
the Lions that are at the top of a stairwell
Yeah.
outside the Art
Sure.
Institute. What's the distance, do you think, from the...
It's not that high.
Okay.
It's like 70 feet maximum.
70 feet
Yeah.
maximum? Okay.
Maximum. It might be
Maximum.
less.
Okay. In the range. 0 to
Yeah.
70.
Also, I was wearing dress shoes because it was a
Sure.
Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
So I jump.
Uh-huh.
And I land, and then I fall down. Like, it wasn't like I didn't crumple away. It's like, I'm here, I'm down. I get up, I'm like, oh man, that really hurt. But like, my legs were fine. They weren't broken.
Sure.
And so I go home. I drive home. I lived in the suburbs at that time.
Right.
It's 2005. So I drive home, and man, my feet really hurt. Like, so much so that I went to the emergency room.
Right. To see if something was broken, probably.
Yeah. And the ER doctor was almost kind of giddy, and he said, "Oh, you're my first World Series patient. I bet there's plenty more."
A lot of people were very excited about the White Sox winning
Right.
the World Series.
So, x-rayed my feet. I still have those x-rays to this day.
Okay, good.
And there's, like, nothing was broken, but they just hurt a lot. So I was on crutches for a few days. I was late to work the next day, and I come hobbling on crutches, and Matt's like, I knew it. So anyway.
This had nothing to do with you, Matt.
Well, I mean, he could have helped me down, Matt. So ever since then, I've had issues with my feet, specifically advancing nerve damage. And I went to a podiatrist years ago who said to me back then, "You're not going to be able to walk when you're older." And I said, "What do you know? What do you know, lady?
Mm-hmm.
What do you know, doctor?
And then you kicked
Doctor
her.
person?"
Kicked her with your working feet.
Yeah. At that point, I had a fracture from... it's just a stress fracture.
Okay.
I was under so much stress, it fractured.
Sure.
A stress fracture is what they call a fracture they think is there but can't see, and they diagnose with a tuning fork.
Okay, neat.
Yeah. So for that, you're in a boot for a while, and I was in a boot for a while. And that was like 2011, I want to say.
Okay.
Maybe because I was living in the city by that point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so with the passing of time, my feet get a little bit worse. And then with the turtle accident from a couple years ago,
When you were savagely beaten by a Ninja Turtle.
I had it coming. I'll admit that now. I did start it,
You did.
and they finished it.
They did.
Yeah.
That's what Ninja Turtles
Specifically Leonardo. I mean, he didn't come out unscathed, but nonetheless, he's
Lousy
still gloating.
Teenagers,
Yep. No respect with those youths.
street youths.
So, over, like, walking the convention floor all day, like, after a while, it's like, yeah, my feet are taking the brunt of this. But they actually feel okay today.
That's good.
And, like, I mean, as we were walking out, I get what I call, like, clubfoot. Like, it feels like my feet aren't bending properly.
Sure.
They are. I just can't feel it.
Right.
So, to me, it feels like I'm
Like
walking
they're in concrete.
like Frankenstein. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, long days at shows are not my friend anymore.
No.
But I have noticed over the last, like, 6 months, due to my rigorous workout routine, that my endurance is better for these things.
That's great.
I've noticed that on a couple of different occasions recently.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that's why I don't like being at shows for, like, the full day, open to close anymore.
Right.
That is not a thing that I can do. Even when we were 4 years ago, when we were... Sorry, I got a family text that just came up with important information that I can't get to right away. When we were at Gen Con, which ironically is this exact weekend,
Yeah.
right now,
Yep.
I tried to sit down as much as possible, which I always thought is a bad presentation for a booth.
Yeah,
I think it looks bad if you're sitting down.
I don't love it.
I mean,
I understand, like, the necessity of it, and I've definitely, when I've worked shows, eventually I will start sitting down more. But yeah, I mean,
and we're not talking artist alley tables.
yeah, the exhibitor,
Yeah.
exhibitor spaces. Yeah, I think it's fine if people aren't around, but if people are around, I don't like the idea of, like, if you're eating, that's one thing, but if you're just sitting down to sit down, no.
But yeah, I remember Gen Con, I'm like, I sat down as much as possible, but those were long
They
days.
were long days and long
and,
nights.
and they were long days that you didn't even have to do all of them.
Yeah, I missed a day.
You were, quote unquote, working the store
I
and
was.
coming down on the megabus.
I was.
But anyway, that is a factor to my desire to leave a show before the end of the day. And not if we're in the middle of something, and not if we have plans, or not if we're going to a panel or like an RMH or an RMS 2-hour presentation.
Yeah.
You know, of course, those are sitting down, so that's fine.
They are.
But it's been a while since we had one of those.
Yeah, I always think that, you know, you can elongate your day at a show by just taking like an hour or something. Just do a panel. Just go sit down at a panel. Be off the show floor. Be away from the noise and the motion and the standing and everything else. And just sit down for an hour. And then I think you find you have another 2 or 3 hours in the tank.
Yeah, for sure. And like today, you know, we took a little break for lunch.
Mhm.
Had some pressed grilled sandwiches.
Yeah.
Second time at that booth, they were...
Midway melt.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice. They're good sandwiches.
Yeah, I don't enjoy the convention food at McCormick Place nearly as much as I do at like Rosemont. But I think Midway Melt is good.
Yeah. And just, and I grabbed 2 bottles of cold iced tea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so cold they still had ice on them, which was great.
Did you say ice cold ice because it's a Husker Du brand of
That's exactly
of
why.
tea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unsweetened.
Unsweetened
Du.
Husker Du iced tea.
Yeah.
Ice cold iced tea.
Which was a good pick me up.
Mhm.
And then we continued on our day.
3 sandwiches with chips and 3 drinks. $51 with tax.
Wow. I was gonna guess 42.
$51. McCormick Place.
Yeah. I mean, Well, we got breakfast for everybody this morning, and that was like $24.
Right.
So half.
I mean, it's like $17 with tax.
Yeah,
to
per
get
person.
to get a sandwich, chips, and a drink, which honestly isn't so
Well,
bad.
okay, you say sandwich, chips, and a drink, but it's one thing. Like, you can't get the sandwich without the chips.
Right, but I'm just saying,
you're not getting a bag of chips.
For your $17, you are
Yeah.
getting a sandwich, chips, and a drink.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I mean, it's not great, but it's
not great.
It's not terrible.
It's not bad. Over $20 would be bad.
And the sandwiches are filling.
They really are.
And I got your pickle.
You
Because you
did.
don't like pickles.
It's true. I was very grateful to not have my pickle slice on my
I
sandwich.
was, you had stepped
like,
away to
no-
wash your hands.
thank
and
you.
if I was ordering yours, I was going to say, no pickle for that one, double pickle for this one.
'Cause
But
then-
as it was,
there's pickle
you
juice
were
on the
back,
sandwich.
and you're like, no pickle, please. And I said, I'll take his if I can.
Yeah.
So they gave me yours.
And you could.
I like pickle spears. I won't eat a whole pickle.
No.
And by that, like, I won't eat, like, a quarter of a whole pickle. I don't like the presentation of eating a whole pickle, but I like
You like
spears.
when it's segmented into
Yeah.
a sixth of the circumference of
Or a
the,
quarter.
Yeah.
A quarter of it, yeah. And I'll eat pickle slices, but oftentimes, when you're eating pickle slices, they're in a different solution. So they're either, like, brined or flavored in some way.
Sure.
Like pickle chips or garlic or whatever. They're not just a pickle cut up and floating. In my experience, I'm sure that they make those. And there have been times where I bought jars of pickles to eat at home, and I'm like, even just the spears, I'm like, I don't eat that many. Like, I'm not going to eat a jar's worth of pickle before they go bad. I bought pita bread a few weeks ago and had to throw it away this morning because it was only 5 pitas in the thing.
Uh-huh.
I had only eaten 3 in like 2 weeks, and the other 2 went moldy.
Oof.
Yeah. Anyway, this is not a pickle pita podcast. I'm sure there's one out there. People want to listen to it, though.
Yeah, hosted by Peter.
We were talking about okay, so let's back up, and today was not our first day at McCormick Place. In fact, we went yesterday frequently at C2E2, Diamond Comic Distributors, whatever they are. I never remember if it's distribution or
Distributors.
It's Diamond Comic Comic is singular, distributors is plural. They would have like a retailer summit where
Well, they would have one of two things. They'd either have the retailer summit, which would be like a full day of programming, or they would have the retailer breakfast, which was just a couple hours before the show starts on Friday.
when it's the breakfast, it's a quick hit of, hey, here's a couple of publishers talking about some new stuff they have coming up. Here is what Diamond's done for the year.
Yeah.
Their new initiatives.
Sales
how they're
figures
going.
for the industry. Like,
Yeah.
is the industry growing, or everything's a very rosy glow. And then, yeah, there'd be like a little slideshow presentation of like, here's some Marvel comics that are going to get announced this weekend or whatever.
But also, hey, don't forget Diamond Select Toys has a
Right,
has a
there'd
presence.
usually be like a little sell sheet at the table where it's like, hey, if you want a bunch of clearance merchandise, you can order it right now at your table. And then there might be like some giveaway comics,
Yeah.
variant covers or ash cans or whatever.
But when it would be a full day summit presentation, it would be sales exhibits, like not exhibits, seminars, like panels, breakaway. What do you call it?
There'd be like 3 different meals for the day, and the meals would be everyone sitting there, and then there'd be little presentations, 15 minutes or whatever, from a variety of publishers or manufacturers that work with Diamond. So it might be, a Valiant or a Hasbro or whatever,
I
where
don't
it
think
was
it'll be Valiant moving forward.
probably not, but it wasn't necessarily the biggest names. And then there would be, for dinner there might be Marvel or DC, or there might be a breakout
somebody
panel.
big.
And then
But in
between
between,
those,
yeah.
there would be one in between period, usually between like breakfast and lunch, would be basically a room would be set up and tables for each exhibiting publisher or manufacturer, kind of like at a show where there would just be an artist alley, someone sitting there, and here's my books, and let me tell you about them, and let me sell you some stuff. But this would be for like Dynamite.
Yeah,
And Dynamite
for
would
publishers.
have a bunch of their, not a full show setup necessarily, but they'd have sell sheets, and they might have some ash cans, or they might have some other books they've released recently, and they'd talk to retailers about, how to get their products in the retailer store, and the retailer would talk to the publisher about what they wanted to see or how things have sold. Later in the day, like maybe between lunch and dinner, there would be a series of different roundtables that you could sit at. You might, like one I was sitting at was hosted by Jen from the Dragon, and it was about different kind of non-comics merchandising you could get and how to integrate that into your store, like products that she'd carried at her store and what had done well for her, and how to create a product mix that works for your store.
Or like, hey, here's one about kids graphic novels you should be stocking, or here's one about social media presentation,
right,
things
marketing,
like that.
Or that kind of thing. So a lot of different stuff where it's not just Diamond as a distributor trying to sell you products. It was more about like
how to be a better retailer.
Yeah,
really.
where retailers could share ideas and hear from other things. That was the full day thing that Diamond would do. So this year, Diamond wasn't doing anything. They weren't doing the Friday morning breakfast, and they weren't doing...
They are doing something, but at Baltimore.
Okay. And they weren't doing the Thursday Retailer Summit. However, on Thursday before C2E2, Lunar was doing a conference, kind of.
Lunar Landing.
Lunar Landing.
A day with Lunar.
Yeah, which was not as long as like the Diamond Summit, but was a pretty long day. Registration started at noon and dinner ended at like 9 o'clock. So it was really intended to be like a full 9-hour thing. We didn't get a ton of details on what it was going to be. We were given blocks of time, registration from noon to 2, a
presentation.
A publisher presentation from 3 to 5. And then from 6 to 9 was dinner with more presentations.
6 to 8 and then drinks.
Okay. So we didn't really know what was going to be at Lunar. Lunar has a variety of publishers they stock and distribute.
They're mainly DC Comics.
Yeah, DC Comics is why they exist as a distributor.
Yeah.
DC had gone to Midtown and also went to DCBS to be distributors for them when they were leaving Diamond. And Midtown got out of it very quickly, and Lunar still does it. Lunar is now the exclusive distributor for DC comic books, not graphic novels, in the direct market. Since they had a distribution system going, Lunar started to reach out to other different publishers. So now Lunar also distributes Silver Sprocket. They distribute Oni. They distribute
Floating World.
They distribute like Artist Choice, I think, is one of the other ones.
Yeah.
And then maybe somebody else.
Merc. I almost said Metro, but it's Merc.
So we went to this because it was local to us. We didn't really have anything planned on Thursday, and we thought, this could be informative. Like, our Lunar purchases are just DC, but DC, like Patrick said, is a big part of Lunar's
I think they had Z2
distribution.
as well.
So we thought, okay, well, DC, this could be valuable for us. Since we are local to it, we did not arrive very early for registration, especially knowing that nothing would be happening until 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so we tried to get to as close as 2 o'clock as possible.
Right. While still not, missing registration. So we got there and registration was super simple. It was, you just walk up to a table and say, hi, we're so-and-so from whatever
5
company.
seconds.
And they have your badges ready and here you go. So we went in and we'd run into, as we were coming down the stairs, we'd run into
Tom and Susie
from
First Aid
Little Italy. Friends of ours.
Longtime friends of ours.
That we hadn't seen in years,
probably. Yeah. I mean, the last time we saw Susie was when she delivered the masks that she made for us.
That's right.
At the start of the pandemic.
Yeah. So anyway, we had run into them and we'd gotten our registration stuff together and we sat down at a table and chatted for a while and waited for things to get started.
It was good. I mean, that part was fun
nice
because we
up.
haven't just talked biz with them in a while.
Yeah.
And they had a great story about being on vacation at Disney in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Disney World, yeah.
Disney World. And running into somebody wearing not only a Challenger's face mask, but one of the ones that Susie had made for us.
Right.
So they see the mask, and she's like, hey, you're wearing a Challenger's mask. They're like, yeah, I love that store. And she's like, yeah, I made that mask. And she literally did. She sewed and printed all like the masks that we wear and sold at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she did not get a name or a photo with that person, so we don't know exactly who it is. So if you were the person wearing, or one of your children was the person wearing a Challenger's mask at Disney World in 2021.
Yeah, like September 2021.
And someone came up to them and said, I made that mask. Please tell us who you are. We'd love to know the other side of the story. But anyway, so we caught up with Tom and Susie for a while, which was great. And then 3 o'clock rolls around, and someone from Lunar comes up to the front of the room, and they thank everyone for showing up, and they mentioned that this is going to be really informal, and it's going to be just putting names to faces and getting to know people and letting people discuss with each other, and that there.
It's the same kind of conference room that we've always done. It's always in the same place, just
Right.
round tables, a screen at the front. But then, if you think of a rectangle that's horizontal, all the way to the right side, there was a row of tables down the side, but down
Right.
like the short end.
Yeah, with some comics and stuff on them, but we hadn't really been introduced to that yet. But as soon as
They said how informal
they
it was
said
going
it
to
was
be.
going to be informal, and it was very just casual, alarm bells are going off in my head, because literally the last thing I want at a 6-hour conference is for it to be really informal and just chatting with people. That's not what I want. I want information. I want something regimented. I want a strict schedule and a full schedule. I don't want to be sitting there. Already we were not crazy about this, because between each little block of content there was an hour of nothing, and it's like, this is the Thursday before the show. I'm at McCormick Place. What am I supposed to do for an hour?
Yeah, you
there's
can't go
nowhere
on
to
the show floor.
Yeah, the show floor isn't open yet. You're in the middle of a convention center with nothing else going on. Like, there's no restaurant or bar to go to or whatever. Like,
They did give us each a free pass to the show, but at this point, we'd long since bought our own.
yeah, we were good on that. So anyway, so they said, yeah, it's going to be kind of informal. It's like, okay, that's not great. And then they brought somebody up to the front of the room, and that person represented Artist Choice and Merck, two publishers that Lunar distributes that we do not carry, and we've seen their work, and we are not interested in carrying. No offense to the stores that do carry it.
It's not for us.
It's not for us. It's
Yeah.
not the kind of product that we necessarily want to get behind in 2022. And certainly a lot of things the guy at the representative was saying were not necessarily the things we wanted to hear from a publisher. It was a very heavy emphasis on variant covers and incentive variants and virgin variants, and a skepticism about returnability.
and how they did a lot of stuff. They kickstarted a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and
especially their nude covers.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, this is not for us. But, it's one person. They're talking about one thing. It's not a big deal. So we sit there, and, 15 minutes go by, and they talk about their products, and they mention that to the side of the room, there's their two publishers, and you can go up, and the artists are there, and you can get a free exclusive variant, you can get it signed, and you can meet the artists, you can hear about their products, you can flip through the books. And they took some questions from the audience, from people who have stocked their books.
And like two jerk kids in high school were passing notes back and
We
forth.
were passing notes, it's true. But so, about 15 minutes.
I thought for sure he was saying sand witches.
Yeah.
Like it was a separate thing, like, oh, witches from the sand.
Sure.
Or,
The plan words.
yeah, sandwiches. Witches was not the second word he
What
was
was
saying.
it?
I don't want to say.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
If you need if you are like trying to unscrew a lug from something, you need a
A winch? A wrench?
winch. Anyway, go on.
So we hit the about 15 minutes into the 2-hour presentation, and the guy's done. He walks away, and then the woman who originally, the Lunar employee or owner, comes back up and says, okay, that's it. Now you can get in line for the different publishers that are there, the two publishers, Merck and Artist Choice. That's it. You can get in line for them and get your exclusive comic. Jen from The Dragon, who's the president of Comics Pro, was
She was there representing Comics Pro.
they represent Comics Pro, and then I think there was a table for people from Lunar who could
Yeah.
answer questions
Sure.
about Lunar distribution, and that was it. And it's like, wow, there's nothing until 6 o'clock. There are 2 hours and 45 minutes, and all that's here is two publishers we do not carry and are not interested in carrying. Lunar, who we don't have any specific questions about because our Lunar distribution has honestly been pretty fine.
Yeah,
And Jen from Comics Pro, Patrick was on the board of Comics Pro
with Jen.
with Jen. So we don't have any questions for Comics Pro. So it's like, holy crap.
And also, Jen was just in town a few weeks ago, so
Right.
we got to talk to her about business, all that trip.
Yeah, that we're covered.
And, spoiler alert, will be again tonight.
So 2 hours and
After
45
this
minutes.
recording.
And all we have to look forward to after that is a dinner with basically more of the same, where it's just going to be like video packages that non-attending publishers have put together, which means that you're probably just going to be getting like Black Adam trailers from DC. Like, that's going to be it.
Actually, Dal, I can elucidate. Does that work?
Illuminate?
I was going to say illuminate, but I can shed more light on the subject.
Please.
Nothing from DC. DC, this was announced so last minute that DC didn't have the proper time to get approval from Discovery to have a presence at the panel.
Great.
So, from what I understand, it was just other publishers doing trailers for their books.
Yeah, which don't care.
And they
not
said
useful.
hey, we're not just giving you solicit information that you're going to find in the next what is their catalog?
I don't remember what it's called.
They've got aside from their DC Connect, they've got a catalog for everybody else.
Right.
So they said it wasn't just going to be that, which is great because honestly, we hate publishers who would walk up there and just
Read off
basically
the
read
publisher
previews.
solicit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what's in this month's catalog. Don't need you for that.
But,
Can read a catalog.
One of the things that was of a conflict to us for that day was specifically comic related. The movie Bullet Train had opened, and we both wanted to see it.
Yeah, and didn't feel like it was going to happen this weekend because of all the C2E2 stuff going on. But then, it's 3:15 at this point, and we just realized this is not for us. This conference is not for us. There's nothing of value for us here. We didn't want to get in line for variant covers, and we didn't want to...
I mean, it wasn't quite 3:15. We did mingle. We did talk to several other retailers.
We did. But we were out of there by like 3:30.
Yeah.
And we left. We just left.
We did not wait in line. We did not get our free copy
No.
of Meow.
I was okay with that.
Yeah.
Then we got back in the car and
we frequently don't do that. We frequently don't do, we're not going to wait in line for your variant cover for whatever, just for showing up, because that's not what we're about.
No.
And we don't care that other people, we don't care, if that's what you want to do as a retailer, great.
Sure.
We hope you can flip that for $50 online or something.
I remember there was one year at a Diamond Summit, I found it really kind of rude, the amount of retailers who were getting in line, and as it turned out, for a reason, because they were getting in line for a Boom Power Rangers variants that Boom had not brought enough of.
Yeah.
So anyone who did not get in line during the final presentations, like the last half hour to 45 minutes of the conference,
the image panel
didn't get anything. So while we thought we were being polite to the attending publishers, we were idiots, because then the next day we had to go to Morgan Kaiju Perry, who was at Boom at the time, and go, yeah, we didn't get anything.
but
we weren't we weren't mad about it. We were just saying, because she had said, hey, if anybody didn't get anything, come to me at the booth tomorrow. Give me your name, give me your store name,
and
we will work it out.
We heard from representatives of the companies that were trying to have their panels, their presentations, that they were furious about it.
Sure,
and we were too at the time,
because the people who were exhibiting there paid for a lot of that. They were sponsoring that. That's how they got to present something. Was they were paying for things like the meal you just ate, and the variant comics you're going to get from Diamond in a month.
I specifically remember it was a Scotty Young panel. I think they were announcing I Hate Fairyland or something.
I think it was Bully Wars.
Bully Wars? Okay.
So.
It was definitely a Scotty was up talking when everybody just retailers were knocking over chairs, not tables, and running to get to the back of the hallway to get to the in line for their free stuff. And our table was the aforementioned Jen,
yes,
Brian Hibbs
from
the
San
two of
Francisco.
us, and one or two other people.
Yeah, I do not remember entirely.
Yeah, but it just the whole time I felt mortified. This is what we're as retailers, this is what we're showing publishers matter.
If you were a publisher, why would you want to sponsor another thing for retailers at that point? Why would you feel like that was valuable money to spend?
Yeah.
Anyway, the lunar thing.
So the point is, we don't care about the variants and things.
Not really.
There's often times you're like, oh, hey, go to this, you get this free variant. We don't care.
Yeah, if we do get them, we'll try and make use of them.
Yeah, but it's not our goal for being there. No. Our goal for being there is hopefully learning something we didn't know, help finding a way to do our jobs better, being given information that informed us about product we didn't know about.
Yeah, I'd rather grow my business in a way that's more sustainable than just you got a book you can flip for $100.
And
not exactly why I'm there.
So that is the same rationale we have behind what we just started this week on our social channels, i.e. Facebook and Instagram and
the TikToks, where
two of the three of us every Tuesday night, We're going to look at an assortment of books that have come out, that are coming out the next day, and give our thoughts on them. And mainly stuff that hopefully we've had a chance to read, things that we heard about and excited for but haven't read yet. It's probably not going to be like, hey, Avengers 59 is out, you should read it. It's going to be
new stuff, things that might have flown under the radar, or things that people are not sure of yet because they haven't read yet.
And we did it last week, and we had a leg up on something like people had never heard of with Luna number 1 and 2, which is that 70s Marvel horror-inspired Moon Knight homage.
Yeah.
And people got really excited for that book. We sold out immediately and have already reordered. And I was going to say, if you're going to C2E2, the artist is there. We've been buying from the writer. No, we've been buying from the...
We've been buying from the artist. The writer is there.
Yeah. The writer's there selling it. But you won't hear this in time. Well, I guess tomorrow night.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, we'll have more in just a few days.
Yeah.
It's funny because it seems like the writer and artist don't talk about who's selling to whom. So
Sure.
The writer had no idea we were selling them in the store.
I guess not.
Anyway, so we were able to talk about something like that. Or Golden Rage, which was brand new. Something else. I think what we're going to do format-wise next week is we're going to grab all of our books first we're going to all right, I'm going to talk about this, you talk about this, whatever. And then we have our piles right there, so we're not moving across the wall and having the camera have to follow us.
Okay. I haven't watched it, so I don't know what works or what doesn't.
It'll just be also because we didn't plan it out, so we're like, this one, because we were looking at the wall as we were doing it.
Sure.
So I think we'll just plan ahead of time. And it's always going to be 2 out of the 3 of us. It'll rotate who. It might be me and Dal, it might be Dal and Molly Jane, it might be me and Molly Jane, but it'll be 2 people every time.
Right.
The third person holding the camera.
Correct.
But also to get different opinions and whatnot. As far as things that we've done socially, it's gotten a very good response, and literally people are trying books that they hadn't heard about, which is the point of why we're doing it.
Yeah, again, which is why we're not just going to be like, hey, it's another good issue of Amazing Spider-Man or whatever.
We would have for Spider-Man 900.
Yeah, and I brought up Batman this week specifically because I wanted to kind of share the opinion of somebody who wasn't crazy about 125 and wanted to say, hey, 126 is a lot more of what you wanted to see. And we heard from people that had the same experience where they didn't know if they were even going to buy 126 because 125 was okay, but not necessarily what they were looking for. And, they thought they'd give it another shot, which is nice. I hope they weren't let down.
One of the things we feel like we're missing in the store on Wednesdays is really comic book chatter. The conversation part of it. It's hard to do first thing Wednesday because we're very busy and the lines are very long, and there's not the time to devote to each person when there's 15 people behind the line or what have you.
Those first 45 minutes are very busy.
Yeah, and also people haven't read those books yet.
Sure.
I think we're real good at being like, oh, this issue is great, or I'm glad you're getting this, or things like that, or hey, if you're like this, you might have missed this, but there's not time to go into depth with it. And I feel like doing it on our socials is, I hate that I just said socials, by the way.
That's fine.
Is a way to counteract that.
That's the hope.
But also, okay, when you told your story earlier about being in line at the Bandai place.
Yeah.
And Molly Jane and I just, went across the aisle to get out of the way.
Sure.
So we stood over by the Whatnot booth, which I don't know what they were doing. They were giving away free cans of something.
Okay.
And they had a weird neon lit stage with music pumping.
Okay.
And something you can walk through. And while we were standing there, the line formed around us, and it was huge. For Whatnot.
That's weird.
Whatnot, which is just I don't know. I've literally never been on Whatnot. I know a lot of wrestlers use it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just a eBay for celebrities or something. But I've also seen on Instagram more and more people who are selling comics on Whatnot, but they have comic shows like a lot of retailers have on Facebook.
Okay.
And to me, it feels like, and this is, get ready for this, people, this is old man comic retailer talking here. Mm-hmm. It feels like it is people trying to do what we do, but without our pedigree.
Okay.
But and I say pedigree meaning like we have between us 60 years of comic retailing experience.
That's a lot of retailing experience.
Yeah, more than 60, but 60 is a good round number.
It's a good round number.
So I'm not saying you need that to do it, but I think that people that just jump on Whatnot, I don't know this because, again, I admit I've never been on it, but to me it feels disingenuous.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm explaining it properly. Like, ultimately, we sell comics to make a living. And we sell comics because we love the comics. We want you to love the comics as well.
Sure. So you feel like people are just dabbling.
Yeah.
Where they're, you know,
like
hey, I'm selling these comics,
like
but
it's a scheme.
They could be selling anything. They could be selling Pokemon cards.
I think they're legitimately comic fans.
Really?
But I think they're like people that have YouTube shows, you know?
Sure, okay.
They don't have the experience.
Okay.
And again, you don't need the experience.
Sure.
But I think the experience helps.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that if any Whatnotter is listening to this rant, I'm the dinosaur who's complaining about the meteorite coming.
Maybe. I don't
know.
To me, Whatnot. I also haven't been on it, and I don't have a horse in this race. Really, it's not something I've really thought about. But I just thought of Whatnot as like a more formalized version of a lot of the Facebook comic sales that have happened, where instead of just people going on, you know, Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or whatever and selling a bunch of stuff, Whatnot is more like, this is the platform for that specific activity.
Sure, and I know that there is nothing stopping us from having a Whatnot show, but we have a live show we run every day from 11 to 5.
That's true. 11 to 7 on Wednesdays.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And
even back during the pandemic, I know there were stores that were doing a lot of online comic shows.
Yeah, those are still going on. Those are still a thing.
And that was never something we did. I don't think it's ever anything we even seriously considered. Like, one, we don't really know how to do it mechanically, and two, like, we don't. The stuff that's good for is like collectible stores
and higher end back issues.
Yeah, or people who buy collections.
Yeah.
Like, our stuff is just like, I don't know, here's V for Vendetta. You ever read V for Vendetta? It's really good. Let me explain V for Vendetta to you. Like, I don't know if that's super valuable to do.
I mean, admittedly,
and
people that listen... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm still gonna, though. People that, like, watch our video and be like, oh, I want to get this book, you know, they'll get it from their local shop. They're not getting it from us specifically, but we are doing it for our audience specifically.
Yeah. But 3, I don't... I like the idea of us doing like 3 to 5 minute videos promoting the week's new books on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't love the idea of spending an hour or two or whatever pitching stuff to an audience I can't see.
That's what this is, basically.
No, this is a conversation you and I are having.
Sure.
I don't want to just be doing this out to an audience and hoping someone's seeing it and buying stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
In a store, you can have that interaction with someone where, you know, you're explaining V for Vendetta and you're looking at their face and you're seeing, like, is this working for them? Is it not working? Do I need to modulate how I'm pitching this? Do I need to pitch a different book?
Do you mean, like, instead of saying V for Vendetta is about Natalie Portman shaving her head, you say V for Vendetta is about Natalie Portman.
Yeah, you go way
you're modulating
up.
your voice.
Way up. Yeah, absolutely. Or if it's something where, you know, you can see it working for them and you can see that look on their face where they're getting interested in a book. And that's, you know, the big reward for what we do is that personal interaction of seeing someone get excited about a book, either right then when they buy it or when they come in next week because, you know, they love that book or they want the next volume or they want to add that series to their list or whatever. The idea of doing that as like an online sales show is not appealing to me. Like, psychologically or emotionally, it's just not appealing.
I get it. I completely get it. Yeah, I mean, from the start, we do this to interact with people who are there.
Yeah.
And does that make us dinosaurs? Not yet. We're not extinct yet, but...
Eventually.
I don't know. I think of Whatnot as just another, like, what will this be in a couple years?
Yeah, when you see a huge presence at a convention for something that I didn't even know existed a year ago at this time, it's like, oh, I don't have a lot of faith in this. This is a lot of venture capital money. This is a lot of how do we drive up engagement at any cost? How do we acquire eyeballs no matter what? And then
you give away cans of something.
Eventually we'll be able to monetize that because we need to show growth more than we need to show profits. So you get these big activations at conventions where it's like, it cost you $25 to get that person to sign up for whatnot. Like, I'm just throwing a number out there, but like some of these activations, like the acquisition cost for a new user is so high, but it's because it doesn't matter. It's someone else's money you're paying with, and they want to see more and more people using your platform. Like, saying that you signed up 100,000 people this quarter is more important than saying, by the way, we spent $25 million to sign up those people, and they've all spent collectively about $8 million. Like, that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
I'm sorry, are you talking about Substack?
Right.
Where was the Substack booth this year?
Yeah.
Where was the Twitch booth?
Nick Spencer was there.
Yeah, there you go. He is no longer a Substack employee.
Is that right?
He's a part-timer. He
I thought he was only ever there just to get their, like, comic signups off the ground. I never thought of him as somebody who was,
he was a salaried employee, but now he is a part-timer.
Okay.
But by his choice, from what I've heard.
Sure.
I do not know Nick Spencer personally.
Me neither.
That's one of the discouraging things, going back to what we wanted to do with the show, as far as like getting our business card in the hands of people that we want to work with and people that we know a little bit of or what have you. There was an entire booth of
an aisle,
whole aisle. Yeah, I'm sorry, an aisle of was it Comics Pages? What was the
comicsplashpages.com or something like that? They were sponsoring like a whole bunch of different people on both sides. Like, they were, the opposite side was where Kyle Higgins was at, and he was part of that same thing.
But it was Ryan Otley, Ryan Stegman,
Donnie
Nick Spencer, Donnie Cates, Mike Huddleston.
I think the Three Worlds, Three Moons stuff at the end was just next to them. I think that was just...
Oh, okay.
Because that's where, like, Huddleston and Mike Del Mundo and where John Hickman would have been had he not had COVID.
But that entire aisle, none of the people were there.
Yeah, I think the only person I saw there was Mirka Andolfo, I think, was there.
Yeah.
I think she was doing some sketches. But, yeah, everybody else was just not there.
Like, we know Ryan Stegman. He's done a signing for us before.
Yeah, years ago.
Yeah.
When we had our
Amazing Spider-Man 666 cover. So that was 234 covers ago. 334 covers ago.
Yeah, it was like 5-something, was it?
It was 666.
Was it 666?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so anyway, 234 covers ago.
Okay.
Not 234. That's how many covers ago it was.
That's a lot of covers ago.
When I dressed up as Kingpin, and Delia was Betty Brant, and we had a Spider-Man there.
We did.
Interesting times. And I've met Ryan Otley before. He'll never remember me.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
There was a point where I was at a small Indianapolis, not South Bend show, and I was hanging out with Ryan Stegman, and this was early in his career, and I'm like, you kind of look like David Tennant to me. Yeah.
Wow.
He doesn't anymore, but just a little bit.
But
anyway,
he regenerated.
Like, just that whole aisle was just gone. Maybe they were doing like a splash page.
They might have been doing a panel or
something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the risk you run when you're only there for like a day and you're walking through Artist Alley, because you don't necessarily want to keep doubling back to see if someone came back to their table. Yeah, there were a few people like that where we just walk by their table and it's like, oh, they're not here yet, or they're on lunch.
You know, I feel bad that we didn't say hi to Tyrell, because we stopped by, like, we walked past him twice, but there were people in front of his table.
I waved to him.
Did you? Okay. Yeah. We don't want to take people's time away from paying customers.
Right.
And we are a paying customer of Tyrell, but, you know, we can buy stuff from him anytime.
Yeah.
He's a club member.
Yes.
He can bring stuff when he comes in, and we buy his stuff.
Correct.
You know, we have
That's
Beef
how we
Bros
got the
and
last
Beef
two
Bros
Beef
behind
Bros. Yeah.
bars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Writer of Beef Bros, Aubrey Stitterson, was a guest on this podcast years ago for the Comic Book History of Wrestling, and I completely lost all of my audio on that recording and had to rebuild it based off of what... No, I'm sorry, I lost theirs. Wait, you know what? I don't know. It was a technologically fraught one, because it was him and Chris Moreno who did the art for that.
Nice.
So anyway, this is episode 597 of Contest Challengers, and
Goodness.
that means we have episode 600 coming up in just a few weeks.
Oh, no.
And I will tell you right now, we are not doing anything special for it.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on it.
No.
No.
But I am working on a couple of things for September.
Yeah.
Because somebody is going to miss 2 in a row.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was actually just looking at the calendar to make sure I'm not missing 600. I am not.
No, you're not. But also, would you care?
I mean, I'd feel a little bad if we hit a big anniversary episode and it was like, I am on a train.
Look on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
For months, I've had 600 is September 4th.
Uh-huh.
It is not. It is a week before that.
Yeah.
My math is wrong on that. It is August.
We'll be dropping. I mean, it'll go live to everybody on the 28th.
Okay. Yeah, I was a week early in my... Oh, yeah, that's All Out Day. Look at that, the 4th.
Yeah, the following week is,
Yeah. Oh, man, it's actually $5.97, but the board still says $5.95.
Oh.
It shows you how bad I am at updating it.
A little behind.
Comics industry news. We've heard but cannot confirm that Valiant has released the majority of their editorial staff. We'd also heard that basically they're going to cease publishing comics. We've also heard that, no, they still got comics coming out, including Bloodshot, which they haven't launched yet.
Yeah.
And which we just got a really sweet Bloodshot promo item in the store, as well as an ash can and some posters, thanks to our Valiant rep, Danny. And we don't know if it's true or not, but that's a thing that had people talking. But just talking about, it's a thing. I don't know. Yes. So it has been a long day.
Very long day.
And then we're not done. We're immediately leaving from the studio to go meet up with our bestest comic creating pals, Russell Boyd, Kyle Starks. He's a man's man. I'm taking that from William Regal. Chris Schweizer. And Jen Haynes, who we've mentioned like 5 times on this podcast.
Correct.
To talk all about the future of comics. And we did lay the groundwork today for... Next year is a big year for challengers and sidekicks for a couple reasons. And today an idea was pitched to us that I don't think Dow was down for, but I said, yeah, sure.
I mean, we'll do it, but I don't think anyone's going to care.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, that's the challenger's motto.
I just wanted to get that out there.
We're going to do this.
When it was pitched, it was like, wow, thanks. No one's going to care.
But you know who will care, Dow? Our amazingly generous patrons. It's a new month, and it's now time to thank our Patreon supporters, including our annual patrons, Becca Hilburn and Joseph Coco, Brent Helt, Dow's mom, Diane Bush, Philip Sablik from Boom Studios, Jose Villagomez, Josh Crowley of Westfield Comics, our bestest wrestling watching pal, Michael Lee, Michael Romanenko, Mike Loveday, our patrons who have created their own tier, Andrew, Drew Troit Comics, Aaliyah, Bridget K. Neville, Chris Burton, Claudine Neville, our other generous patrons from the Say My Name pledge level, Arun Singh, Ben-Hur Benedict Calaguas, Bradley Rader, Braden, Manage Comics Own, Brian Garside, Christopher Haith, President of the Brian Garside Fan Club, Django Boren, Drew Triner and Ashley Edwards, Challengers Reservist, Fallon Mackerline, my brother George Brower, Heidi D, Jacob Sorelli of Kamikaze, Jason Wood from 11 O'Clock Comics, Josh Trigg, Mark Hammond of Aw Yeah Comics, Margie, Keith, Logan, and Malcolm Springham, Marcuson Nasso, Matt Armstrong, Mitchell Davies of All-Star Comics in Melbourne, Australia, Morgan Kaiju Perry, Nick Baldwin, my longtime pal Robert Burns, Ron Payne, Ryan Alcock, Ryan Hecht, Sean Bowers, Tad Eggleston and Johnny Williams, Thomas Nagovin of Century Guild, Walt Grogan. And if you want to hear your name thanked on this very podcast once a month, head over to patreon.com/challengers and pledge at the $5 Say My Name level. And a big thank you to all our other patrons at the various other pledge levels. Patrons, you're all amazing. Thank you all again, even though we just named a bunch of you. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.